Well, hello everyone. Hello, friend. Welcome to the Celebration Machine. My name is Pete Hammond. I'm your host. Thank you for joining me, especially if you're a new subscriber or new to the channel. Welcome. If you've been here for the past 27 videos, thanks for coming back. Tonight's video is about how I became a funeral officiant or celebrant. We're called different things. We're basically a non-denominational person who performs funerals, helps people design and do funerals for people. So some people, when they pass away, they get a priest. Other people get people like myself who are typically non-denominational, and we help you bring your vision to life, for lack of a better word, of what your celebrational life is going to look like, or funeral. They're the same thing. The new trending word is, or title is celebrational life. It's just a little friendlier than funeral. Even though the word fun is in it, as cheesy as that is, they're usually called celebrations of life or a service. So anyways, I got into it. My introduction to the whole funeral industry was actually a long time ago, probably 30 years ago, when I'd finished cancer treatment and my first job was working in a cemetery as a burial crew. It was the best place to sort of digest the experience I'd just gone through. And I learned a hell of a lot about death and dying, about myself, about people, about how people process that whole experience, but mostly from the cemetery side of things, like out watching people do graveside services where they basically commit the casket to the earth or the cremated remains, which is looks like a jar or a vase, and you bury that. So I was there for a couple of years doing that, learned a lot. And I also recognized that there's many different ways to celebrate a life or to do to funeral and to send somebody off. After that, years later, I got a job doing the sales side of things. So working inside at a different cemetery, doing pre-need, so helping people do plans and stuff like that. And it's when I was doing that work that I realized there wasn't a whole lot of people doing what I am doing now. And particularly, they seem to be a little older and maybe more stuck in their ways. So if people didn't have clergy or a priest or whatever, they'd end up having sort of a short list to pick from. It's not a job for everybody. It's difficult dealing with grieving people, especially if it's a tragic passing. I mean, all death is hard for some people, whether it's a 100-year-old grandmother or a child that passes away or somebody that takes their own life. None of it is super fun, but there are definitely varying degrees of intensity. So I became a celebrant because a friend of mine from high school passed away, and his brother asked me if I would do the funeral. And I think I spoke about this before, but it was terrifying. I was scared, and because I didn't want to screw it up. And I'd been a wedding guy forever, married all my friends. And then, like I said, a friend of mine passed suddenly, and his brother called me, just not knowing. They weren't a religious family, and they said, "Could you do this?" And I said, "Sure." And I was terrified, but we designed a beautiful experience. It was incredible, and we had an amazing time. Honestly, it was probably my favorite to this day, was that first one. And I realized this is something I'm good at, and I was built for, and my life sort of led me up to it. It's not my full-time job. I don't know that I could do it every single day, but I do it often enough that it's important, and I am proud of the fact that I can do that for people. I did a particularly difficult service last summer, and it was actually for another friend of mine that passed away suddenly, and it hit me really hard. It was close to home, and I was just feeling particularly vulnerable. I'd done his father's as well a few months before, and so it was a real shock to the family, and it was tough. And burying your friends and celebrating your friends' lives is it's tough, man, because you're hired to hold the emotional tone for the room. You're certainly there to not fall apart. And when you're doing that for friends, there's moments, especially when they have kids and you're looking at the children, it can be really, really tough to keep it together and to not get caught up. But you have to also remind yourself that you're there to provide a service and do a job and be a professional. And I pride myself in having done that up to this point. In over a decade of doing services, I've always come out feeling like I did a good job. But yeah, I realized I like doing it because being a cancer survivor or cancer veteran, I realized I was talking to my wife after this particular tough one that I'd done. And I said, why do I do this? And she said, well, why do you do it? And I thought about it. And I realized selfishly, it makes me feel really alive. It makes me feel alive. It also makes me feel of service, for lack of a better word. It makes me feel useful. It puts me in a space where I have to be perfect. Not that I think perfection is a thing, but it really focuses your attention. It makes you really focus on doing a good job. because the last thing I want to do is fail in any way while doing a service for people. They don't hire me to be okay. They hire me to hold the space and hold the room and to create an environment where they can relax and grieve and feel all the feelings. They're not there to worry about me. So I think that's why I do it, because it makes me feel like I'm valuable. You know, it's not that deep. I find value in a lot of things that I do, but I do feel incredibly useful when I do that. And it's really nice to have a family thank you afterwards and tell you that they enjoyed the experience because of the efforts that I've made. So that's why I do it. Also, I'll never be out of a job, selfishly. If that's all I ever do, that was a meaningful life. We're well worth it, and it's honorable. And I'm very glad that I can do it. Is it for everyone? Probably not. It combines death and public speaking in a room filled with really upset people. And people bring a lot of different emotions to the table, especially when you're sitting with the family prior. Death brings up everything, the good, the bad, things that might have been brewing under the surface suddenly explode in conversation, or, you end up being a psychiatrist, a police officer, a doorman, and an officiant and a facilitator of an experience. So it's an interesting job. They're not all like that, certainly, but I've been in a couple of rooms that were like intense, but again, you feel useful and you feel really good. I'm not going to be rich from it. The money's not crazy, so don't do it. You're thinking you're going to get rich, but it's a fantastic experience to live through, to do that for a family. So that's how I got into it. That's how I became a celebrant. I helped out a buddy. I helped out a friend to celebrate. A buddy of mine had passed away, and I continue to be that guy. When people pass away that are close to me, I oftentimes get the call. I did my own father's, although it was really weird because it was not formal. It was more of like I was more emceeing it rather than directing a series of things that had to happen. Like, I have a template that I use and I send to the family, and it sort of shows what's going to happen in the service. And for my father's funeral, which we did here at the farm, it was really low key and really chill. And we had basically an open mic, and I read a poem and stuff that I'd written for my dad while he was dying to help him with the idea of the afterlife and what might happen next. And so it was really, really different and really casual. And I was kind of, if you've ever buried a loved one, especially a parent, you're kind of not really here anyway, because it's so surreal when it's your own. But I didn't have to be a professional that day. I just had to be a son saying goodbye to his dad with my family and my friends. And it was really beautiful. So that's the video for today. If you're thinking about being an officiant and you have questions, certainly shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to help. If you have questions about that sort of thing, like I said, it's really amazing. It's a powerful thing to do. It's not for everyone, and you don't get to practice. You know what I mean? You kind of do it and then you figure out if it's for you or not. But yeah, if you have any questions, shoot me a line, or if you have questions in the comments or an idea, or you want to know more about this sort of thing, let me know. Other than that, I hope you're well. I hope you don't have to call me unless it's to hang out. And that's it. I'm Pete. This is Celebration Machine. You have yourselves a fine day, night, or whatever the hell you're about to do. Bye for now.